Everyone loves their country, and on this very specific day, I'm here to show love to my country. That's right, oh Canada, land of Mark Carney. But I'm not here to talk about Mark Carney. I'm here to talk about Canadian Pacific's very special units. No, they didn't make one for Canada's birthday, but they did make one for its military. Well, actually, the word one might be inappropriate here because they made 5. Now, as we get in, we need to address one underlying fact that all these locomotives have, being that they are all rebuilds. A little confused? See, in the late 1990s, EMD introduced the SD90 Mac, one edition in their long line of Mac series. However, unlike the other Macs, the SD90 Mac was largely deemed as a failure for a multitude of reasons of which I can't get into. So, Canadian Pacific, who had quite a lot of these SD90 Macs in stock, decided to strike a deal with Progress Rail in 2018 to rebuild them into modern SD70 ACUs, equipped with your standard SD70 cab that you see on a lot of engines, more or less specifically ACEs. Now, starting off with the most interesting out of the bunch, 6644, which has a interesting history to it, the first of which being its number. 6644 is not unintentional. The number is in reference to June 6, 1944, which, if you know anything about your history, is when D-Day occurred, which of course Canada, along with the British and Americans, actually played a pretty pivotal role in. But the Normandy references don't just stop there. The locomotive's paint scheme, which is, well, obviously camouflage, were colors that were applied to Canadian Royal Air Force fighters that also took part in the Normandy invasion. Of course, it's airplanes, so they just bombed a bunch of shit. Now, before this thing turned into a, well, D-Day unit, this thing actually went by 9160 and was built in 1999 before its unveiling in 2019 on Remembrance Day. It is incredibly interesting to see this random unit, which you probably wouldn't have been able to differentiate from all the other SD90 Macs at the time, and then it turns into one of the big 5, and not gonna lie, just like all the other units, they actually did a really good job painting this thing. It looks fabulous. But now, we have to move on to our next unit. That's right, Canadian Pacific 720. Now, the funny part about 720 is that I actually have to clarify which one I'm talking about, because there are 2 720s. There is this one, which is going to be the star of the show today, and this one, which is some crusty-ass switcher from 1944. I've never seen this thing before. Maybe I'll talk about it in another video. I don't know. Now, the interesting thing about our 720, or the one we're going to be talking about today, is that this one wears NATO green, which Canadian and US armies apply to fighting vehicles and equipment serving in temperature climates. This thing is actually pretty good looking despite the albeit unoriginal concept of it just being green. But, of course, there's more to it than just that. Originally built in 1998, this thing took on the number of 9113, and to be fair, yeah, it does actually look pretty good. Now, does that mean I like it more than 6644? Hell no! But it still does pretty good despite, again, having a unoriginal concept of it just being the color green, which other railroads have done way better. But still, this thing's pretty unique, pretty cool, and overall a good addition. Next up, who's there? It's 7021. 7021 wears sand colors, which looks kinda like another unit, which I'll be talking about in 3 days from now, but trust me, we'll get to there. And these colors are apparently worn by Canadian and US armies that fight in arid climates. Like, I know what the fuck that means. Now, as for where this thing comes from, apparently it was built as Canadian Pacific 9107 in 1998, similar to the other ones, before eventually just turning into this thing. And again, admittedly, I like this one more than the previous one. If I had to put this thing on a tier list, I'd probably put it in like A tier or something. It's pretty good looking, but also, I can't lie, I prefer the Desert Storm unit. Next we have, I'm gonna be honest here, my favorite out of the bunch, 7022. Oh yeah. 7022 has a frankly amazing paint scheme featuring gray, red, and black. It is mostly the paint scheme used by modern Canadian and American warships, and my god do I think this shit looks great on a locomotive. I cannot lie, I need to gush about this because oh my lord, this is one of the greatest paint schemes I think I've ever seen. If Canadian Pacific decided to use this as their regular paint scheme, like if they merged with Canadian Pacific, like if they merged with Kansas City and decided, you know what, we're gonna make this the permanent paint scheme, I think the merger would get less hate, not gonna lie. But regardless, this locomotive has some backwater. Built in 1999, I'm starting to notice a trend here with all of these. It was, of course, an SD90 Mac under the number 9146 in this rather interesting image, which, mind you, how come all of these things appear in Calgary, Alberta? What the fuck are they doing here? Finally, we move on to 7023, which is designed in light ghost gray paint, which is apparently used by Canadian and American air fighters. And if you ask me, this is without a doubt the weakest out of the bunch. I don't know, but you know what I said about the other two units that used basic colors and actually used them pretty well? Yeah, that doesn't apply here. This is just gray, and I can't lie, it is without a doubt my least favorite out of the bunch. It's just gray. Like, it's actually just gray, and like, it's just gray. It's just gray, I don't got anything to say. But regardless, this thing was built in 1988. Is it just me, or how come all of these are built from 98 to 99? Strange. And was numbered 9128. But I won't lie, this one probably has the best photo out of its SD90 Mac era. I mean, I don't know what it is, but something about this is just immaculate, and I love it. Now with 7023 done, we have officially reached the end of this little, well, special that I made. Of course, this video isn't exactly long, but it's sure as hell one I had fun with, and overall, I feel like all of these units are actually pretty good. So thank you, Canadian Pacific, or Canadian Pacific Kansas City, for making these back in 2018, 2019. They're actually really well made. I'm happy to see them still on the roster and still moving. As for their 250 unit,
you blew it!
Нам скучно. Застой.
Хочется движухи.